All right, it's 10 a.m. on the dot. Hi! Thank you guys so much for signing up for my session. I'm going to tell you this number of people is not going to be great for my ego later. But yeah, we're here to talk about the importance of data narratives, aka effective storytelling for effective data tools. I'm going to we'll get right into that. Sorry, I had to hit the admit button. There's a flow. Hi, I'm Ishrat. I'm a user experience designer at Decision Theater. Essentially, what I do is I help our partners craft and tell their data narratives through experiential design and storytelling. Basically, people say, please build us the thing, and I say, how do you want the thing to look? And then I build the thing. I build like the design for the thing. But what's the thing, you ask? We're going to get into that today. So today, what we're going to learn about is what's a data narrative? How do you implement a data narrative? And then you're going to learn about how my team at Decision Theater implements data narratives. So, there are a lot of you, and statistically this will be impossible to have no hands raised. But raise your hand if you've ever gotten an email with a dashboard or a link to a dashboard. You've opened it up, you're like, okay, thanks. Like, what is this data? What does it have to do with me? I don't care. And then you've like deleted it, or you've just like ignored it completely. Thank you so much for raising your hand. I thought it was going to be a please clap sort of situation. But basically, what you're missing is a data narrative. A data narrative is a story that you want to tell through your data. It means it's the purpose, it's why you want people to care. So, apart from that very first example, what are some benefits of having a data narrative? So first things first, you establish a relationship with your users and you provide value. Why am I opening up this email? What does it have to do with me, right? Then, because you've taken that step to establish a relationship and you've provided them value, you're encouraging them to use your tool. Hey, this has something to do with me. I care about this. I'm going to use this. And then, because they like your tool and you've taken the step to make a relationship, you've increased your credibility because users understand and trust the tool that they've been using. And finally, the most important thing for dashboards, how many times have you built a dashboard and no one's used it? Yeah. It hurts when you see those stats and you're like, I didn't sleep for 3 days. Use this. I want them to make decisions. All right, before we dive deep into how Decision Theater does stuff, who's Decision Theater? We're actually part of the Global Futures Laboratory. Our mission is to transform decision-making for local and global challenges through co-creation of data-based tools and experiences. That's a lot. Basically, what we do is we partner up with people in the community and we create experiences. They are data-focused, but we do web, we do, I'll show you a picture of the drum, what we're named for. We do all sorts of things. So this is the drum. This is what we're named for in the theater, in Decision Theater. We are not just this. This is just one of the many experiences we build. It's essentially this gorgeous room with 7 giant monitors of data. And as you can see here, we facilitate decision-making, and we create the tools that facilitate decision-making, and we pull people together to kind of tackle the biggest problems that we face. So that's just one experience. And then we'll actually go into how we implement them in web tools. So how do we accomplish our data narratives? We use the convergence methodology. The official definition of convergence is that it brings multiple perspectives and disciplines to collaborate. Think of perspectives as layers of data, right? If you have one perspective, you have one layer of data. Multiple perspectives, multiple points of view, the more rich your data set's going to be and more a chance for you to explore. So, I'm going to hide this guy. We use these perspectives to discover narratives. And with our partners, we create these tools to facilitate engagement and co-creation. Because in the end, they're the SMEs. We're just a vessel for you guys. All right, here's the nitty-gritty of it. Narratives 101 and how we employ them. Harken back to if you went to school in the United States, 7th grade English class. This is the classic narrative structure, right? You have your exposition, the who, what, when, where is taking place. You have conflict, what's driving the story. Then you have rising conflict. You have some pivotal moment, which is the climax, the great battles, the heartfelt conversations, falling action and resolution. It's just wrapping the story up, and lately, unfortunately, setting up for the sequel. I'm so sick of sequels, guys. So, as data visualizers, we tend to think we only exist here, right? We give them some background into what they need to solve. Here's the problem. Figure out what you got to do, right? But that's where the, what does this have to do with me, when you open up an email comes into play, right? Really, we need to go think of all of this, which is a lot. But that's why you have a narrative structure. Your climax is called a decision point. That's when learning becomes doing. And we'll show you how we do that at Decision Theater. This is the Decision Theater narrative structure. This is called the hero's journey. And if you're a huge Dan Harmon fan, the Dan Harmon cycle. It's you end where you start. You see this a lot in video games. Like right now I'm playing Legend of Zelda again. So you get kicked out of Hyrule because Ganondorf's in Hyrule. You come back stronger, fight Ganondorf, kick Ganondorf out of Hyrule. Basically that's what it is. The big thing about us is that we have a central catalyst called the overall question that you want to answer. The why are we doing this? This is going to drive all decision making and all your designs. So first, if you're lucky, your partner says, we have this thing, it does this. Perfect. You have an overall question you want to answer. Then what you want to do is your exploration. You want to give users a chance to explore your narrative, explore what's the who, the what, the when. This provides you background context. And then you have engagement. It's engaging with the narratives. You seek answers from the narrative. You're actually using the tool. So if you've done one, if you've got the central overall question, you've got the exploration, now you're at engagement. And then they're empowered to do something. So it's a cycle mostly because they all feed into one another. If you have the successful overall question, you're actually set up for success. And as your tool proliferates, this will go on and on and on for every user that uses it. All right. It's all great and good. I've given you a fancy graphic. How do you implement it? Let's start with the catalyst, that overall question that you want to answer. That is the why does this happen? Hopefully all of you have read Lord of the Rings. I don't. Okay, perfect. When I was practicing this, my sister was like, what if you don't know Lord of the Rings like me? And I'm like, I don't know, man. So if you don't know what Lord of the Rings is, all you need to know is an evil wizard created a ring that could have multiple powers that you could rule over Middle-earth, right? So these are usually broad, open-ended questions. You get them as, what happens if there's a ring to rule them all? If you think about it in a dashboard sense, it's, how do we measure the impact of forest degradation in a specific region, right? Very broad, very open-ended, but it provides you an overall context of what this dashboard's going to be. Then exploration. So this is where co-creation and the convergence methodology comes in when you work with different perspectives, because you're actually going to work with your partners to identify your target audiences. So think about that dashboard example that you got. That dashboard probably has a good overall question, right? And they've provided you lots of context. But are you the intended audience? Are you going to see data the same way as someone else would, right? So if you need help, last year I gave an overall UX in data visualization. Will these slides go out? Can people access these slides? Okay, if not, contact me. I'll give you access to these slides. But there's a helpful link. Basically, this is where my team comes in. We learn more about our target audience and all of that. But think about it from the point of view of that person reading Lord of the Rings, right? Same story, same data set, right? But you have two different types of audiences, right? You have your casual reader, like who the characters are, what are they doing, what will they succeed, how long until Sean Bean dies, right? And then you have your literary scholar, the themes of the stories, allegories, metaphors. So if you send someone who is a casual reader something super complex, they're not going to care. But if you send someone who's really, 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 really into the Lord of the Rings, your very, very high level data set, right? All right, thanks, I know all of this. And then engagement ends there. So you want to provide value for exploration. Engagement. So this is the crux of it, right? Because you've gone through, you've provided an overall question, you've identified your users, you can now kind of predict what questions they're going to ask, right? And because you've gone through that, you can actually identify a couple of categories that you missed in your data set, right? So let's think about two questions that someone would ask. Pardon me. The casual reader will ask, is Frodo pure of heart enough to throw the ring into Mount Doom? That's a question they might ask. It's very pointed, but it's something that a casual reader wants to know, right? At the end, does our hero win or does our hero fail? And then your literary scholar, same data set, same story. Are the orcs and the machinations of killing ants representative of the Industrial Revolution? Yeah, very, very pointed questions. And then empowerment. So let's talk about empowerment for a second. We at Decision Theater and you as data visualizers, it is the best practice that we do not tell them what to come up with. At the end of the day, we want our users to take action based off of their perspectives and what they get from the data. So it's an action, right? It's a result of the user's engagement. So it's not going to be something as big as I'm going to run for office and I'm going to change the world. Like, it can be small, like an argument amongst friends, or like just a discussion to be had within a large group. But the fact that they're empowered to do some action verb, means that they've fully engrossed themselves in the data and they've drawn conclusions. We have shown, not told. So let's go back. Same story, same data set, right? The casual reader, a discussion regarding whether or not Frodo was the one who threw it in the volcano, or spoilers, Gollum threw himself into the volcano. But did he succeed or fail? Or, on the other end of the spectrum, inspired by Lord of the Rings and its allegories of industrialism, a reader starts a local community garden. So you can see that like it all feeds into one another like a circle, right? And at the heart of it was that overall question that you wanted to ask. Awesome. So UX designers love hierarchies, but also our brains love hierarchies. As humans, we want to categorize things. We want to put things into buckets. And this is a cool hierarchy that it creates. So if you want to think about it, your overall question drives all of these. It'll drive the exploration. What's some information people are going to look for? It drives the engagement. based on the information that users are looking for, what pointed questions are they going to ask? And then they'll be empowered to make some action. So I've provided you guys a cool template on Miro, if you guys want to use it, if it loads. This is exactly what my team uses on all of our projects. We have the overall narrative, what information people are looking for, what pointed questions they're looking for, and then what empowerment are they looking for. I've also created a persona template. So personas are usually referenced if you're in like project management or specifically design. All personas are who's going to be using this tool. It's your audience, right? It's who are they? What's their affiliation? Specifically, are they someone, if they're your target audience, is there a target affiliation or organization from within that audience that you want to reach? How much do they know about the subject matter? And this how fluent they are in technology. My parents are a little older. One is very in tune with technology. The other one calls Google the Goggle. So you want to know, like before you make something, you want to be able to make sure that whatever you're making can be accessible, right? So this persona template, I hope it helps. It helps us a lot. This is what we use. And then this entire template will, along with some hints on how to use it, will be available to you guys to use and to download and to use however you want. Can I move the bar? Okay, perfect. All right. I ruined it. You would think after the pandemic, Zoom would be like, do you know what we should do? Make our UI easier? And they're like, no, they're going to use us anyway. Let's make it harder. So today, it's the participation. I'm so happy there's so many people. We're actually going to go through a mini exercise of exactly what my team at DT does. So this is just an overview of the prompt, but go ahead and join. As a tip, it's going to be very, very tempting to use your real name. Make your lives easier. Don't use your real name. Use a color. Use the name of the emoji. Just do something. Lucy, are you in the room? Are you okay? Why is your emoji sick? I'll give you guys like 1 more minute and then. So many participants. I love it. All right. 3 spots remain. Perfect. All right. Here it is. A partner has come to you guys. We need to increase enrollment. Here's our data set. It includes current demographics of the student body, includes outreach data, where we did outreach, when, what it was. And then we have lead data, which is when someone puts into like learn more about ASU, like it captures their information. So let's build a data narrative. All right. So based on this, again, the prompt is we need to increase enrollment. What's the overall question that we're trying to answer? Again, broad questions. And sometimes it can just be simple. You don't have to get, one more time? Nope. Okay, perfect. Promise I hit it twice. let me give you guys 30 more seconds. We're at 75%, so it's not a biggie. All right. All right, let's go through some of these great questions. Why do we need an answer? That's a very interesting one. Let's table that one. What factors impact enrollment? Enrollment. Why is enrollment down? These are all very, very, very good questions. So as you can see, if your customer comes with like with a statement, hey, we want to increase enrollment, that's pretty much your overall question, right? What motivates people to enroll? How to increase enrollment? Great job, guys. So, you know what? Grogu got the most votes, so we're going to go with Grogu's question. Who are the students that we have interacted with, and are they enrolling? All right. So, who are the students we're interacting with, and are they enrolling is our overall question. Who would be some potential users? Who would be potential users of this data set that you are trying to visualize? Does it make... Yeah, okay. So true story, I guess you have to hit it 3 times for the polls to work. And if you are stuck, remember the template, right? Who are they? What's their affiliation? I forgot my own template. Who are they? What's their affiliation? How much information do they know about the data set? And I hate the word techno-literate because it's outdated. I could have an entire discussion about it. But how familiar with technology are they? Give you guys 1 more minute. All right. Who are some potential users? I love the me. I don't know if you guys were able to vote, but me gets my vote, and I feel like that suppresses all. College admins, administration, advisors. These are all great potential users, right? I don't know if they give you a character limit, but these are all great, but college admins of what college? Have they seen this data set before? Or recruitment teams. I don't know if there's multiple recruitment teams, forgive me. But is it a recruitment team out of ASU Online? Is it a recruitment team out of a specific college? Is it a recruitment team for undergrad, graduate, PhD, WP Carey? So the more you have, the better. In this case, more is better. The more that you know about who you want to reach, the more pointed information that you can ask of them is going to be, will be. So, I know, you know what? I'm going to, because me won, it's going to be me. So, I'm Mishrat. I'm someone at Decision Theater. I'm staff. I want enrollment because I want to keep my job. I want enrollment to go up because I love students. I have no experience with the data set, and I have some experience with terminology, but I'm really good with computers. Okay, let's do this. One more time. Can you guys check if on your phone it's saying that you can? One more time. Okay, I think there's like a slight delay. Okay, so what information am I, Ishrat Lalmamod, am I trying to learn about these students and why they aren't enrolling at ASU? True story, I went to U of A for my undergrad. If I hear any boos, you're out. But it's funny that I feel like there's like a slight tremble, and some of my friends from who work at U of A are going to be like, "Are you talking about stealing our enrollment? Are you a target audience member?" So again, what information am I looking for? If it helps, I'm South Asian. I am second generation ASU. My mom came to this country, went to ASU. My sisters came to this country, went to ASU. My sister's husband went to ASU. My sisters went to ASU. So what information am I looking for from enrollment? This part is the hardest part. You can tell that if you have more information about the user that you're trying to ask for information what they're looking for, the easier this question becomes. Right, 30 more seconds, because I want to make sure we have enough time to do Q&A. All right. This is wonderful. I love this. Of course, demographic data. Who are we targeting when we're trying to do enrollment? Enrollment trends. Love that. We always love to see a good trend. Are there... Can I move this guy? Are there enrollment barriers? These are such good questions. I want to talk about enrollment trends, because enrollment trends won't necessarily be in the data set explicitly, right? It's something that's derived. So the information that people are looking for won't be explicit in the data sometimes. Sometimes it will be. Sometimes we want to know, like, oh, what's the percentage of students that are enrolling and what's their demographic? That's simple, right? A simple pie chart. But sometimes you need to do some derived questions. And enrollment trends is such a great example. I was hoping someone did that. I'm not going to lie. What are obstacles for students enrolling? Are there certain groups underrepresented in enrollment? Did they go somewhere else? Where did they go? Does ASU offer the same majors? This is fantastic. These are wonderful questions. Let's do enrollment trends for the information that I, Ishrat Lalmamod, would like to know about why we aren't having as much enrollment as we should be. So, I'm going to go forward, then I'm going to go back. Okay. So, of the enrollment trends, what's a very specific question I'm going to ask? It could be, remember, so trends are changes over time, if that helps. Has enrollment, some tips. Has enrollment changed from last year to this year? Who has enrolled from last year to this year? Remember, enrollment trends, broad, because that's information I'm looking for, right? The questions that I'm going to ask, very pointed. Right, I love that, seeing that bar. I love the engagement. Do you guys find that this part was way easier than the last question? Like trying to come up with some information that I would ask versus a very pointed question that I would ask based on that information? All right, I'm gonna give you guys like 30 more seconds. While you guys are doing that, if you take the hardest part of this entire exercise is identifying your users and thinking about what information they'll ask. You'll notice, if you think about it from the classic narrative structure, it's kind of like going up you that they're going to ask. And then once you've reached that point where you've identified your users and what information you're going to ask, it's smooth sailing downhill, right? Because, keeping an eye on that bar, because once you empathize with people and you start learning about what information they want, you can derive questions that they would ask and visualize those questions. Empathy is very hard, especially in user experience. That's why there's an entire field called user experience. But I encourage you guys to do that exercise of identify who people are and what information they're looking for. Even if it's not in the realm of data narratives, it's if you're building a web app, if you're building an exhibit, just go through that exercise and you'll find that whatever comes after it is so much easier. All right, I'm gonna move. I feel like some of you guys know me and are reading me like a book. Especially the why with this frowny face. How can this data be correct? I think that's the one that I think reads me the most. Is ASU still #1? We care about that. Have we been declining for multiple years, or is it one dip? What's the projected growth for the next 5 years? Are we on track to meet our goal for this year? These are very good, very pointed questions. I love that you guys got how very specific. Why? Probably an overall question. I think why, overall question, is the name of my autobiography. But what's the best new place for us to recruit? This is very, very, very pointed, very specific. And those are questions that your users will ask. They're never gonna, if your users are asking very broad questions, probably miss the step, if that helps. Is ASU still #1? Yeah. I really wish I could screen cap Goggle as Y and send it to my dad. All right. So I said that is ASU still #1? Based on that question that I'm going to ask, and let's say I do get that answer, right? You guys haven't told me what the answer is. You guys have presented data to me. What are some actions that I might take? What are some empowerment verbs? What are some empowerment action verbs that I would take? As Ishrat Lama mode will, Ishrat Lama mode can, Ishrat Lama mode shouldn't, but will. What are action verbs, right? Empowerment. "30 more seconds, only because I talked too much and I'm running out of time." All right. Sorry if you're still submitting your answers. Ishrat Lama mode can create data visuals. Yes, she can. Thank you. I can market towards a potential student. I can create directed ad campaigns at neglected groups. I can ingest enrollment campaigns. I can innovate. I can reach out to ASU. I can advertise to ASU. I can do what I wanted to do all along. I don't know what that means. That's so ominous. I can compare and contrast the enrollment trends at ASU versus University of Arizona. You guys nailed it. You guys nailed it. Yeah. How hard or easy do you think that exercise was? Like it was pretty easy. Raise your hands. Okay. It was moderately easy. Medium. 3, oh my gosh, I never want to do this again. Good, because then then I failed. Yeah, you guys nailed it. All right. I'm going to switch back to my presentation. So that's basically what my team does. Our partners will come to us, they'll come with a data set, they'll come with an overall goal, and we translate that goal into a data narrative. And then we visualize the data narrative. So we're going to go through an example of what I did. We're not going to go through that again. So this is AZ Curve. This is our partners with the Arizona Water Innovation Institute, the Kyle Center for Water Policy, and the Piper Foundation. They came to us and they said, hey, we have this really cool data set of Colorado River access across the state of Arizona. I've included a link to it. This is just one of the visualizations that we made. But this is exactly what my team did. This is how we approached it. That screenshot's not great. So we got the overall question. What's the impact of Colorado River water access across the state of Arizona? By the way, I learned that Colorado River water usage and access, 2 completely different things. So we've identified some users. I always use, if you're working on a project, you'll know I'll always use my dad, Goggle, Abdul. He's a member of the community of Gilbert, who he is, his affiliation. He loves to water his plants, even though he knows it's a drought and we live in a desert. And he has no knowledge of water and water terms. Who he is, his affiliation, his knowledge of the tools, and just something that he does that would give you some insight into his daily knowledge of water, right? Oh my gosh. That one was Lindsay. She's a member of the water managers group Gilbert. She knows lots about water and water terms. She wants to make sure that Gilbert has access to water. And then you have Michael. He's a member of the press that covers matters of the environment and water specifically. These 3 groups we didn't pull out of nowhere. We worked with our partners to identify like, hey, these are some target audiences that we want to engage with this tool that we're making. And then we created the personas. Now, let's talk about information. Abdul will probably want to know about community water access. Lindsay will want to know about economic water access. And Michael would probably want to know about statewide water access. You'll notice that there are lines. That's because sometimes there's overlap, and you want to make sure that you make those connections so that, 1, you don't make the same visualization thrice and someone's like, okay, I get it. But also, you want to make sure that you make something impactful, provide value, right? And then you have the pointed question, where's my other source of water coming from? Like, if I'm watering my plants constantly, like, is it just Colorado River water I'm using, or am I using salt water? Am I using water from the Verde River? If the biggest water user is a farm, how much water does that farm use? How much Colorado River water does that farm use? And then how much access of Colorado River water per capita does Arizona have access to? So you can see that we go from very, very broad strokes to very, very narrow strokes. And then we have some empowerment statements. These are usually to make sure that we complete the circle, because if you drop one, you're not going to get that proliferation, right? So Abdul will switch to desertscaping to save water. He got a good chuckle out of that one, I'll tell you. Gilbert will start leasing water from the Salt River tribe. And then Michael will publish a story about how much water per capita Colorado River and other water sources are. So you can see they're pretty varied. One takes direct action based on the user. One will, in my dreams, do something. And then another one starts a discussion. So empowerment has a range. It isn't one size fit all. But if you identify like, hey, if Michael's going to publish a story, we should probably have a feature that lets you download the visualization, that markets your tool, that gives your tool credibility, and it gives a good way for Michael to share the data and provide more credibility to his story, providing him value. All right, I've talked a lot. In short, narratives organize your data into more than just data points, but rather stories you want to tell. Because you've created a story, you're taking your users on a journey with you that will allow them to see value in what you're presenting them and encourage them to explore more. When they're done exploring, they'll want to engage with it and be empowered to take action based on what they've learned. Very heavy emphasis on they. Yeah, so everyone, thank you so much for joining. There's a link to the template. And then, because I have my master's in media arts and sciences, if you're really into it, they've done studies on the importance of storytelling and visual narrative flow. So yeah, are there any questions?
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
So my question for you is when you're developing the personas and you're working per se with leadership, but who's going to be using the tool are a variety of people. Do you need to go talk to would you suggest going to talk to the people directly, or would you take what the hierarchy says at how they're going to use the tool? How would you suggest navigating that?
So yeah, for people on Zoom, the question was, you've talked to leadership, they've given you a list of people who would want to use the tool. What's the best way? Personally, first of all, ask, hey, can I contact these people directly? And secondly, if they say yes, user interviews are great. User interviews, surveys, depending on how busy those people are. We've done user interviews, we've done surveys. Sometimes we've developed personas with our partners because sometimes we can't reach out to someone that would use the tool, right? The more engagement that you start, or the more information that you learn about your users, whatever means possible, is great. It's a term, if you guys are interested, it's specifically in user research. It's a part of user experience. It's a whole discipline. How to craft survey questions. Can you guys hear me? Okay. How to craft survey questions. What's the best way to craft survey questions? If you're still curious, I'll be here for about another 10 minutes, and we can talk more about it. Hi.
I just want to compliment you because I've had a very shallow introduction to marketing, and when they talked about build a profile of your user, she makes 100,000 and she drives a Mercedes-Benz. What soda does she want to buy? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But your examples were pointed, and your information about your user was more specific and much more relevant and helpful.
Yes, I will reach out to you. Please write a PhD recommendation letter. She did a talk. It was great. I loved her. Any other questions? Okay, well, how much time do I have? I did create some canned questions. Maybe I can ask you guys, right? I have 5 minutes, and I'm going to use those 5 minutes. When you guys are developing dashboards, and you can do this as a race of hands, right? How many of you guys actually develop dashboards? Perfect. All right. How many times has someone come to you and said, here's a data set, like they don't even tell you the problem statement. They're said, here's a data set, just build something. How many times has that happened? A lot? Yeah. So that's always the tough part. And I think that comes down to the decision theater convergence model, partnership. And I know it's hard to do partnership, especially when it's leadership being like, here's a data set, make something that does X, right? It's hard, but you have to ask them like, great, because do you guys get it through ServiceNow tickets sometimes? Do you guys still use ServiceNow? Okay, sometimes it's a ServiceNow ticket. I would suggest adding a why. Why are we building this? What is this data set supposed to show? What is this data set? Ask them like it's their idea. Does that make sense? That's a huge part of UX. It's their idea that they came up with this data set. So thanks for the data set. What is it? What does it show? And that kind of gets you on that question to start gathering requirements. Another question. Are any of you guys designers? Love that. Love that. Have you ever had problems designing? Like the data set is just, there's too much. There's too much in this data set. You want too much. Have you ever felt overwhelmed with how you're supposed to visualize something, right? Just UX 101. Make it simple. It doesn't, also the second thing to take away from this, it doesn't matter if it looks cool if no one uses it. And that's what, we have a graphic designer. Her name is Anna. I love her. Because I will propose wacky visualization. I'm like, this is so cool. You know, if you do the animation, because I'm an interaction designer specifically, if you do this, if you click this button, this thing will happen, and then users can play around, and she'll be like, Ishrat, if no one uses it, it doesn't matter how cool it is. So keep it simple. It doesn't matter if it looks cool if no one uses it. And two, always have a data narrative. All right, are there any other questions? If not, we're at time. I'll be here for like 2 more minutes if you want to come by, talk about decision theater and all that. All right, thanks everyone.